The soft hum of the jet engines was the only sound Alyssa Carter could hear as she drifted in and out of sleep. She had boarded the red-eye flight from Los Angeles to New York City after a grueling week at work, hoping to get some rest before her big presentation. Wrapped in her hoodie, she sat by the window, the world outside just endless black sky. But then, something changed. A sharp ding from the intercom jolted her awake. The lights flickered, and the cabin filled with a tense silence. Passengers who had been snoring or watching movies sat upright, confusion spreading like a ripple. The captain's voice came through, shaky and strained. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're experiencing an unexpected systems failure. And," he paused, his voice cracking, "if there is any fighter pilot on board, please make yourself known to the crew immediately." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Gasps and murmurs exploded through the cabin. A mother clutched her child. A businessman yanked off his headphones. Flight attendants exchanged wide-eyed glances, whispering urgently into their radios. Alyssa blinked, disoriented, thinking she must have misheard. Fighter pilot? On a commercial flight? That sounded absurd, like something out of a movie, but then she noticed the panic blooming around her, real and raw. This wasn't a drill. Her heart pounded in her chest. She slouched down, trying to disappear into her seat, but her mind was racing. Only a handful of people knew her secret. The woman snoring 2 rows ahead had no idea. The college kids laughing earlier had no clue either, because Alyssa wasn't just any sleepy passenger. She was a former United States Air Force fighter pilot. And now, the entire plane might be depending on her. Alyssa's fingers curled tightly around the armrest as adrenaline surged through her. Memories flashed like lightning, roaring engines, night missions, and the deafening silence of the skies after combat. She had sworn that part of her life was over. After leaving the United States Air Force, she promised herself never to fly again. But now, a flight attendant rushed down the aisle, her voice trembling. "Please, if anyone has military flight experience, please come forward. The captain needs help." No one moved. The silence was deafening, broken only by the anxious breathing of hundreds of strangers. Alyssa's heart pounded louder than the engines. She scanned the passengers, business travelers, families, tourists. None of them moved. All eyes darted around, waiting for someone else to be the hero. Her pulse quickened. She could stay hidden, let fear win, and hope someone else stepped up. Or she could save them all. Her seatbelt clicked as she stood. Heads turned. Whispers followed her like shadows as she walked down the aisle toward the cockpit. A little boy clutched his toy airplane and stared at her in awe. The flight attendant's eyes widened. "Do you have experience?" Alyssa drew a steady breath. "Yes, I flew F-16 for 10 years. The attendant's relief was instant and overwhelming. She grabbed Alyssa's arm. "Thank God. Please, this way." The cockpit door opened, and Alyssa stepped inside. The air was thick with tension and the smell of overheated electronics. Warning lights flashed red across every panel. The captain, sweat beading on his forehead, spun around. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Alyssa Carter," she said firmly. "Former fighter pilot. Tell me what's going on." He swallowed hard. "Navigation's gone. Autopilot's dead. And I think we're losing hydraulic pressure." Alyssa's breath caught. This wasn't just turbulence. This was life or death. The cockpit felt like a ticking time bomb. Red lights blinked across every panel, alarms wailing in desperate rhythm. Alyssa Carter slid into the co-pilot's seat, muscle memory kicking in like a switch. Her fingers flew over the controls, silencing the sirens just long enough to think. Hydraulic pressure's dropping fast. The captain said, his voice cracking. "If we lose it completely, we won't be able to steer or land." Alyssa's eyes darted to the gauges. Critical systems were failing in a cascade. The jet was flying at 35,000 feet, somewhere between Chicago and New York City. Below them, nothing but darkness and cold. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Minutes," he whispered. Her jaw tightened. Fear clawed at her ribs, but she forced it down. "Then we make those minutes count." She flicked on the manual override, her movement precise and sharp. The plane lurched, jolting passengers awake with terrified screams. Alyssa didn't flinch. She had flown through sandstorms and missiles before. This was chaos. But chaos, she knew. Control sluggish, she muttered. Feels like we've got partial hydraulic failure, maybe a leak. Can you fly it? The captain asked. I can fight it, she said, locking eyes with him. He stared at her, this woman who had just risen from the passenger cabin like some impossible answer, and then nodded. Then fight. Alyssa grabbed the radio. This is Flight 982, declaring an emergency, requesting immediate priority landing, nearest runway, now. Static hissed back. No voice. No tower. The captain's eyes widened. Communications are down too. Alyssa's chest tightened. They were alone in the sky. No autopilot. No comms. Failing hydraulics. And 300 souls behind them. She straightened in her seat. If this plane was going to land, she'd have to fly it blind, like the old days. Strap in, she said coldly. This ride just got real. The cabin trembled as Alyssa Carter eased the yoke, feeling the sluggish response through her fingertips. Every move was heavy, delayed, like steering a whale through the sky. The captain sat rigid beside her, watching in disbelief as she brought order to the chaos. Talk to me, he said, voice low. What's your plan? First, she replied, scanning the panels, we find somewhere to land. If the hydraulics fail completely, we only get one shot at controlling this thing. Her eyes caught the faint glow of a map display still flickering on backup power. She tapped it. Blurry coordinates blinked on screen. Nearest strip is Cleveland, about 120 miles. We can make it if the pressure holds. The captain frowned. And if it doesn't? She met his gaze, calm but deadly serious. Then we glide and pray. Outside, lightning flickered on the horizon like camera flashes, illuminating the ocean of clouds. The plane shuddered again, a deep groan echoing through the fuselage. Somewhere behind them, a child screamed. Stabilizers are sluggish, she muttered, gripping the controls tighter. Feels like the left side's bleeding pressure faster. Can we rear out? Trying. Alyssa leaned in, hands moving like a blur. Years of muscle memory guided her through the chaos. She closed valves, redirected flow, and bypassed failing circuits, all with the focus of a surgeon. Slowly, the shuddering eased. The captain stared. How are you this calm? A ghost of a smile tugged at her lips. Combat does that to you. Then another alarm wailed, shrill and piercing. A new red light flashed across the console. Alyssa's heart sank. Fuel loss, she whispered. The captain's face went pale. You've got to be kidding me. They weren't just running out of control. They were running out of time. A sharp metallic scent filled the cockpit as Alyssa Carter checked the fuel readouts. The numbers were plummeting faster than gravity should allow. A leak, big enough to drain them dry before they ever reached Cleveland. Estimate, she asked tightly. The captain's voice cracked. 20 minutes, maybe less. Alyssa clenched her jaw. 20 minutes to descend 30,000 feet, find a strip of land, and somehow keep 300 strangers alive with crippled controls. Her heart thundered, but her mind was cold, clear, and sharp. Okay, she said, steady as stone. We're ditching Cleveland. Too far. What's closer? He hesitated. There's a small regional airfield near Erie. Runway short. Not built for something this size. Alyssa's lips pressed in. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be safe. She banked the aircraft gently eastward. The cabin tilted. Passengers cried out. The left wing groaned like old metal under strain. Alarms still blinked, angry and relentless. Her mind flashed back to her fighter days, the nights when everything went wrong and survival meant breaking the rules. No air support. No backup. Just instinct. Diverting course, she muttered. We'll glide in shallow, kill speed on descent, and pray the landing gear listens. The captain swallowed. And if it doesn't? Alyssa gave him a hard look. Then we slide this bird in on its belly and walk away breathing. He nodded, wordless. A crackling noise suddenly burst from the radio. Static, then a faint voice. Flight 982, do you copy? Alyssa snatched the MIC. This is 982. We've got hydraulic failure and fuel loss. Attempting emergency landing near Erie. Clear the runway and get emergency crews ready." "Copy that," the voice said, stronger now. "Runway lights on. You're clear to land." A flicker of hope sparked in her chest. For the first time all night, she could see the ground and the tiny lights of a runway glowing in the darkness. The runway lights of Erie glimmered like a fragile promise in the distance, thin lines of gold against endless black. Alyssa Carter gripped the controls so hard her knuckles turned white. The plane was descending fast, too fast, but slowing meant risking a stall. "Flaps at 20, she ordered. The captain's hands trembled as he moved the lever. The flaps creaked open, and the jet jolted, nose dipping lower. Passengers screamed from the cabin. She forced herself not to hear them. "Not now. Hydraulic pressure's almost gone," he warned. "I know," she said quietly. "Hold together just a little longer." The altimeter spun down, 2,000 feet, 1,500, 1,000. The runway loomed ahead, heartbreakingly small. Alyssa adjusted the descent angle by instinct, fighting the sluggish controls like dragging an anchor through the sky. "Gear down," she commanded. The landing gear groaned as it extended, then a sickening clunk. The right gear jammed halfway. Warning lights exploded across the panel. "Right gear stuck," the captain shouted. Alyssa's eyes narrowed. "Then we land on 2. She lined up perfectly with the centerline, throttled down, and whispered to herself, "Come on, baby, just one last fight." The wheels hit the tarmac with a bone-rattling slam. Sparks burst from the jam gear as the fuselage tilted dangerously to the right. Alyssa held the yoke with all her strength, correcting the skid, muscles screaming. Tires screeched. Metal screamed louder. And then, silence. The jet lurched to a stop halfway down the runway, tilted but intact. For a long, breathless moment, no one moved. Then a sound rose from the cabin, sobbing, cheers, applause. The captain stared at her, eyes wide with awe. You just saved all of us." Alyssa exhaled slowly, her body shaking as the adrenaline faded. She gave a faint smile. Once a fighter pilot, always a fighter pilot. Outside the cockpit window, emergency lights flashed against the night as help rushed toward them. They were alive, and she had flown them home.